A pleasant hello from temperate Mayagüez, where World Cup qualifying reaches its climax this evening. A Puerto Rico squad that must win tonight against a very game St. Vincent and the Grenadines side. It sets the stage for a thrilling final match day in Group F here in Puerto Rico. Hello and welcome to Estadio Centroamericano de Mayagüez. Sam Goldfarb here, bringing you all of the action here tonight in what should be a fascinating fixture. It is one where Puerto Rico has major stakes at play, a chance to progress to the final round of World Cup qualifying for the first time in its history. But as you look at the weather conditions tonight, it should be a very challenging test nonetheless. Your look at Group F at the moment. Puerto Rico sits third in the group. They must win, and Suriname must beat El Salvador for Puerto Rico to finish in the top two and move into the final round of World Cup qualifying come September. It is a very possible series of outcomes, but they have to take care of business here at home before they can worry about anything else going on in San Salvador simultaneously. Well, it sets the stage for what could be a monumental evening in the history of the Puerto Rican national team. It is a Puerto Rico side that entered this window of World Cup qualifiers with a real chance to control its own destiny. But falling to Suriname on Friday, a heart-wrenching 1-0 defeat in which they nearly saw out a scoreless draw despite being overrun for large spells of the match. They were just unable to get across the finish line, and it puts them in a scenario where they have no room for negotiation. They must win in order to have any chance of progressing to the third round. They face a St. Vincent and the Grenadines squad that is already eliminated from top two contention, but fresh off of a 6-0 throttling of Anguilla on Wednesday. And it is a very game side, one with talent that plays in some of the top tiers of the American football pyramid, notably the USL Championship. It creates some underlying plot lines that should be quite interesting to dig into as these 90 minutes progress. We set the stage for the first meeting of the 21st century between Puerto Rico and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It should be a fantastic clash between these two. You get your look at St. Vincent and the Grenadines, led by Ezra Hendrickson on the touchline. Charlie Trout, the headman for Puerto Rico, as both sides get set to take the pitch with significant stakes at play for the hosts. We'll step aside briefly, hear from Mayagüez when we return. Puerto Rico and St. Vincent and the Grenadines here from the island of Puerto Rico.
Damas y caballeros, nos ponemos de pie para escuchar los himnos nacionales de St. Vincent, seguido por el himno nacional de Puerto Rico. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the national anthems of St. Vincent and Puerto Rico.
We welcome you back to Mayaguez, where we are just about set for kickoff between Puerto Rico and St. Vincent and the Grenadines in the final match day of World Cup qualifying here in Group F, the second round of Concacaf's 2026 World Cup qualifiers. Puerto Rico must win to have a shot at progressing to the final stage for the first time in its long history as a national team. Sam Goldfarb back here in the 12,000-seat stadium. Here is the Puerto Rico lineup. Two changes from the 1-0 defeat Friday night against Suriname. A 4-3-3 formation. Keep your eye on Ricardo Rivera, the all-time leading goal scorer in El Huracán Azul's history as a national team. It's a decorated front three. He's partnered up by Leandro Antonetti, who plays for Sevilla, made his first team debut in La Liga back in January. It is a match presided over by a decorated officiating crew led by Randy Encarnacion out of the Dominican Republic, Wasna Barnade and Kevin Peters as assistants. Ken Pennyfeather is our fourth official here this evening. Captains exchanging pleasantries. They are Olex Anderson and Nico Cardona, two players who both play in the USL Championship in the United States. Very familiar with one another in the Eastern Conference. Nico Cardona, longtime captain over the course of the last couple years for Puerto Rico. Olex Anderson, at 29 years of age, has adopted the captain's armband for his nation. And speaking of his nation, led by Ezra Hendrickson, here is the 11 for an already eliminated Vinci Heat squad, but still a very strong entity. They do make 5 changes, but Azinho Solomon and Olex Anderson up front is fearsome. Stephen Pierre in behind as well. And then the back line, very similar to what we saw in the 6-0 throttling of Anguilla on Wednesday night. This is a squad that has tons of talent. Don't get mistaken, this will not be a cakewalk by any means for Puerto Rico if they come out flat. There are your looks at the lineups as we are just about set for kickoff from the Estadio Centroamericano de Mayaguez, a venue that seats north of 12,000 individuals. It opened its doors 15 years ago in January of 2010, a near $44 million construction project at the time. Well, for Puerto Rico, we have already discussed the stakes ad nauseum. It is win to have a chance at the third round of World Cup qualifying. They can't even scoreboard watch in San Salvador without all 3 points here this evening. Meanwhile, for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, playing for pride to some degree, but also trying to end their qualifying campaign on a high note, effectively eliminated after dropping their first 2 matches of qualifying, but bouncing back authoritatively on Wednesday to, at least at that point, keep their campaign afloat. Just about set for kickoff. Seems to have been a late scratch because Steven Echeverria is into the side after not being listed in the initial 11. So a little plot twist for El Huracán Azul right before kickoff. It is Puerto Rico in the white with blue numbers, going from left to right on your screen. St. Vincent and the Grenadines in the green with white numbers, going from, well, right to left, excuse me. Puerto Rico going left to right. And underway here from Mayaguez, it is Puerto Rico and St. Vincent and the Grenadines in the final clash in Group F. We welcome you back in. Sam Goldfarb bringing you all of the action here from the island of Puerto Rico. A lot of concerns for that man. Charlie Trout, the Englishman, has been at the helm of Puerto Rico since 2023 and guided this very El Huracán Azul side to within a match of the 2023 Gold Cup, which would have been a first ever Gold Cup appearance in national team history. They fell short after falling to Martinique. Since then, keeping them competitive in League B of the Nations League. Here's Anderson, who runs out of real estate on the near side and out for a goal kick. Well, for Puerto Rico, under Charlie Trout, they've placed extensive emphasis on developing players from a very young age, bringing in players when They are in their college days, and their goalkeeper is the prime example of that. Sebastian Cutler, a current rising senior at Villanova University. He's one of many players playing in the American college ranks who have elected to represent their nation of Puerto Rico. It's developed a very cohesive nucleus for El Huracán Azul, a squad that is very familiar with one another at this point. On the other side of things, Ezra Hendrickson is the head man for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. He was appointed with the hopes of revitalizing a World Cup qualifying campaign that had gone stale after falling in the first two matches of last June's contests. He did secure victory on Wednesday, but ultimately not enough after El Salvador throttled Anguilla at the weekend. So for him, it is just about a positive run of results. Someone who has coached at the highest level of the American game, a multi-year manager of Chicago Fire from 2022 to May of 2023. Charlie Trout taking over from his predecessor, Dave Saracen, who effectively guided Puerto Rico to promotion to League B of the Nations League in the 22-23 slate. And he has kept up that momentum, but for him it is about leading El Huracán Azul to the next step. A win tonight would go a long way to securing that. Franklin is fouled after the overzealous challenge. That's a late challenge from Leandro Antonetti. No real debate. There's Kyle Edwards, plays for Hartford Athletic in the USL Championship. There is an interesting underlying battle involved with this, because there are a pair of teammates on opposite sides of the fold. Gene Cervena was listed on Puerto Rico's 23-man squad. He is a North Carolina FC player. A fellow teammate of his is the captain of St. Vincent and the Grenadines in Olex Anderson. So another interesting underlying plot line in what should be a fantastic clash between these two nations. Cervena is on the bench tonight, donning the number 19. The question of whether we see him in the second half, depending on how this opening 45 unfolds. It's a loose pass and an opportunity for Vinci Heat. It is blown dead rather quickly. Here's Paris, the former Wake Forest Demon Deacon. Cardona spraying it wide. It's a delicious ball forward towards Rivera. And snatched back by Paris. Ricardo Rivera. And for Puerto Rico, in many respects, this is a golden generation of sorts. It's not the highest they've ever been ranked in the FIFA World Rankings, currently at 157th and peaking in the 90s back in the early 1990s. But after a long 14 years between 1994 and 2008, without an international victory, it has been a resurgence of sorts over the better part of the last 2 decades. And Charlie Trout overseeing the most recent successes. Early throw for El Huracán Azul. Cardona, currently playing for Miami FC, as a duo of teammates. in the lineup tonight in the form of Gerald Diaz and Ricardo Rivera. Is a resurgent Miami FC squad that has climbed up the Eastern Conference standings in the USL Championship. So some layer of familiarity within the Puerto Rico 11. Loose touch here. And perhaps Idrak was left off the hook. Well, there is the star man for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Oleg Sanderson, who is the man penalized for this tackle. Certainly a bit of a wrestling match. Seems displeased with the decision. Back to brace in that victory over Anguilla. Rivera over the top, space in behind now. Off his line is Davis, and he does just enough. Well, there is the first warning shot from Puerto Rico, a side that will no doubt attack with unbridled urgency tonight, knowing they must win. It's a fantastic ball over the top from Gerald Diaz, and it's right into the path of his teammate, Rivera. And Davis doesn't deal with this properly. He's very fortunate that that didn't fall to a man in white. That is Garwin Davis's, one of his first forays into competitive competition. It's just his 8th international cap. But he's been preferred over Lemus Christopher here in this window of World Cup qualifying. Was rarely tested in the Anguilla match. That was really the first challenge he's faced. Echeverria. And it will just be a free kick for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Well, so there was the late adjustment. Echeverria into the squad. He was listed on the bench in the lineup we received. So clearly something that occurred in warm-ups that forced Charlie Trout into an alteration. Errant back pass here, and Cutler off his line to usher out of trouble. Antonetti. Goes down immediately by Kanaja Joseph. Well, just on the precipice of the 10-minute mark from Mayaguez on the island of Puerto Rico, the 9th largest town in Puerto Rico. It is an island that houses over 3 million people compared to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, 130,000. When you do the math, St. Vincent and the Grenadines has 3% of the population of Puerto Rico, but not separated by much in the FIFA World Rankings by any means. Here's a slither inside, and laid off now. Antonetti receives it back and finishes. A flying start for Puerto Rico, who are in front just inside 11 minutes. Spectacular goal, and it is just what the doctor ordered for Al Huracan Azul. Slick interplay. You see Antonetti, the quick 1-2, receives it back and just tucking it into the bottom left corner. And just like that, 1-0 Puerto Rico. And they get that elusive opener rather early. It is excellent. Gerald Diaz, the man who ultimately ushered it back into the path of the 22-year-old. And Leandro Antonetti making no mistakes in front of goal. Well, Leandro Antonetti is a young prodigy of sorts in the Puerto Rican national team ranks. Someone who was born in Spain. His father playing professional volleyball there at the time. Now the head coach of Puerto Rico's men's volleyball national team. And so as a result, he spent a large portion of his youth career in Spain. And fittingly enough, he found his way back there and made his way to Sevilla in La Liga. It's primarily featured for the B team, but this past year did make his senior team debut in January. It was a match against Espanyol, the first ever Puerto Rican to feature for the Sevilla first team. And he bags his 5th international tally on just his 17th cap to put Puerto Rico in the driver's seat early in this must-win fixture. Well, step 1 of the equation is going according to plan for El Huracán Azul. Reminder, they not just need to win, they also need Suriname to defeat El Salvador, and then effectively Puerto Rico would progress on goal difference. Still a long way before either ends of the bargain are fulfilled. Long throw here. Edwards gets a touch to it. Stabbed away. One back by Joseph. Looking over the top for Kyle Edwards, and rather comfortable for Sebastian Cutler. Well, he has played in many high-stakes environments, not only in the college ranks, playing for Charlotte for 2 years before transferring to get better playing time at Villanova. But early in his national team career, in fact, in one of his first ever competitive appearances, subbed on for penalty kicks in the Gold Cup prelims tie with Suriname in Miami, Florida. Made a crucial penalty stop to help Puerto Rico progress to the finale of those prelims. He was the hero for the night. Unfortunately for Puerto Rico, falling a match short of their first Gold Cup appearance 2 years back. But it was a statement of intent from Cutler and his teammates on one of the happier nights in modern Puerto Rican national team history. As you get your look at the benches there, I'm sure there will be plenty running through their minds over the course of these 90 minutes. As things stand, it is a 0-0 scoreline between El Salvador and Suriname. Still much to work out, though. Spring. Issues building up from Marshall. Snatched back by Puerto Rico. And kept afloat rather expertly. Idrak sent to the deck, and a throw for Huracán Azul. Rios looking in. The header from Antonetti lacked the ferocity of his opener. Early cross towards Antonetti. Joseph. Here is Edwards. Nearly snatched back by Beto Idrak again. Franklin, who was dazzling against Anguilla on Wednesday night. And there is an early injury concern. It appears to be for Puerto Rico's goal scorer, Leandro Antonetti, who is slow to get up after a scenario off the ball. It is a humid night here in Mayaguez. Temperatures only about 78 degrees, but the humidity north of 80%, as is custom for the Caribbean at this time of year. Antonetti appears content to continue. Well, the young striker already serenaded by the home faithful in Puerto Rico, and unsurprisingly so, has already delivered in one of the biggest matches of Puerto Rico's national team history. It is a Puerto Rico side that began international competition in 1940, but has not qualified for a World Cup or a Gold Cup. Its only semblance of a major international tournament came in the Caribbean Cup. They featured twice and finished fourth once in the 1980s. There's a new generation of talent coming through the fold now. Dinked over the top towards Antonetti, who may catch up to this, and Franklin read it rather well to his credit. An errant pass from Antonetti, and numbers for Vinci Heat. Anderson unable to latch onto it. Now for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we've mentioned a bit of the successes under Ezra Hendrickson. It is a team that has been a mainstay in League B of the Nations League throughout its four-year history, but achieving the most points it ever earned in that competition in 24-25. They finished just 2 points shy of promotion to League A, and as a result, one of two sides from League B to compete in the Gold Cup prelims. And they put forth a significant effort against Jamaica and earned a draw in the opening leg before being throttled in leg two and ultimately falling short of the Gold Cup. But major signs of potential for this rather small nation. Diaz, excellent 1-2. Space to cross. Charles deals with it. And Juan O'Neill will let it run out of play. Scintillating switch to Rios. Hurling it towards the back posts. Rivera unable to catch up to it. Well, there is the all-time leading goal scorer in Puerto Rico national team history, Ricardo Rivera. Joined Miami FC after a stint back in his native Puerto Rico, although he has bounced around the globe at the club level. Played in Dominican Republic, before moving to Miami FC. The international level, though, 19 goals, the most all-time since Puerto Rico started tracking goals and caps. He scored 4 goals in 7 World Cup qualifying apps these last 2 cycles. Just beyond the 20-minute thresholds, it is Puerto Rico 1-0 to the good, courtesy of Leandro Antonetti's 11th minute opener. As things stand, they would achieve the 3 points necessary, and Suriname currently leading El Salvador. A 19th minute opener for Longwijk. So as things currently stand, Puerto Rico would progress to the third round of World Cup qualifying, the third and final round. Hasn't been any indication, at least, that the players are aware of that development just yet. It is a Suriname side that has rotated rather heavily from their victory on Friday that secured advancement against this Puerto Rico side. Franklin. And we'll come back to the earlier challenge on Anderson, who is still down in a heap. So the Suriname goal scored by Justin Longwijk in the 19th minute. So it is 1-0 to the Surrey boys over El Salvador. All according to plan for Puerto Rico thus far. As you see, Anderson caught with the loose challenge from Darren Rios. No real debate here. This allows Courtney Franklin some target practice. He was quite dynamic as a crosser when he came on as a halftime substitute on Wednesday. A goal and 2 assists to his name. That lacked the accuracy or ferocity required. Space to counter now. Antonetti giving chase. He might catch up to this. It required an awkward clearance from Davis.
Atención, por favor. Tarjeta amarilla siendo mostrada al jugador número 21 del equipo de Puerto Rico, Darren Rios.
The yellow card was shown to Rios for that challenge. Antonetti keeps this in play. He's wrestled off it at the 11th hour. He still appears to be in pain after that earlier knock. And perhaps Charlie Trout may be forced into a first half alteration now. Just clatters into his defender. It's clean defending from Tristan Marshall. And immediately after it, goes down and signals to the physios on the touchline. Definitely something to monitor for the Puerto Rican faithful, excuse me. Their goal scorer, their young star up front, battling with a nagging knock. Corner on the way, though, for El Huracán Azul. It is Paris to take. Within swing. Toward the back post. Davis issues dealing with it. Still loose. And once again, St. Vincent and the Grenadines off the hook. Darwin Davis, rather fortunate that didn't wind up in the back of his net. Tries to catch this, and instead, unable to corral it, just sat dangerously in front of his goal for a matter of moments. We are 25 minutes gone from Mayaguez on the island of Puerto Rico. A 1-0 advantage for El Huracán Azul, and they are forced into a change. It is Jaden Cerveña who replaces Leandro Antonetti, the goal scorer, in the early stages of this match. Well, definitely a blow. Puerto Rico star man up front, forced to vacate, but Cervenia very experienced. Now his 24th cap with the Puerto Rican national team. Plays for North Carolina FC in the USL Championship and has been with NCFC for the last 4 years. So he will be playing against his club teammate in Oleg Sanderson. The two of them get to have it coming together on opposite ends of the pitch this time. Cervenia has spent the entirety of his 6 seasons at the club level in the United States, born and raised in Birmingham, but opting to represent Puerto Rico. Over the top here, it's a decent ball. Just beyond the reach, though, of Azinho Solomon, one of the top threats up front for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It is an interesting scenario right now for Vincy Heat because Cornelius Stewart, who is second all-time in goals scored at the international level for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and scored a penalty on Wednesday, is not included in the squad this evening. So it's for Solomon up front, a man with 8 international goals to his name. And Stephen Pierre, meanwhile, taking the number 9 kid. Terrific ball towards Cervenia. It's read well by Charles. Rios. Idrak. And still Beto Idrak. The effort deflected. And Davis is unable to prevent that for going out for a corner. Well, it has not been the most nerves-free first half for the 21-year-old Davis, who, as we mentioned earlier, strong against Anguilla, but only forced into 1 stop in that contest. It's just his second competitive appearance since mid-October of 2023. It is Gerald Diaz to take this. High arcing ball towards Rivera. Anderson copes with it. Edwards, one of 5 different goal scorers for St. Vincent and the Grenadines on Wednesday. It was a major return to form. Outscored 7-2 in the first 2 matches of Group F play last June. They find themselves well and truly on the back foot 30 minutes into this one. Not without threat, though. They've had a couple of decent opportunities when they win it back high upfield. 30 minutes gone, still 1-0. Leandro Antonetti, the difference maker, who has since vacated with a first half knock. And as things currently stand, Puerto Rico still in line to progress. Suriname leading 1-0 right around the same time in the 30th minute. Joseph. Edwards. Kanaja Joseph again. And this is Tristan Marshall, a mainstay at right back for Vincy Heat. Spring. Pick out Pierre, who is donning the number 9 that usually is worn by Cornelius Stewart.
Personas que sean sorprendidas en esta práctica pueden ser removidas del estadio. The use of whistles by first people are not official wrestling has not been made by regulations.
Idrak deployed in more of a defensive midfield role today, despite playing more as a center back at the club level. Cervena draws defenders. This is Rios. Early cross. No one there to greet it. Echeverria will let it roll out of play. Well, there is a danger man for Puerto Rico. And Darren Rios currently plays in the German 5th tier with Wilhelm Schaven. It's his 37th international appearance for the 29-year-old. Someone who is already top 5 in Puerto Rican national team history in caps and goals. Vertical ball towards Rivera, and this time Davis handles that with maturity. Marshall. Vertical ball here, and there are options in the box. Nearly fell for Anderson. Edwards heads it along. Composure under pressure from El Huracan Azul. Entering tonight, Puerto Rico had not won a match in the last 5 games. The last victory coming in their penultimate Nations League contest in the 24-25 slate. It was a 5-1 dismantling of Aruba. It was an uneven Nations League campaign by their standards after nearly being promoted the previous year. Anderson. Past his defender. Still Anderson! Excellent stop from Cutler. Olex Anderson nearly unlocked the entire Puerto Rico back line, but Sebastian Cutler equal to the test. There is life here with St. Vincent and the Grenadines. They are not a side that will roll over. Olex Anderson is a man on a mission at the moment. Joseph. This is DL Spring, the 24-year-old. For Puerto Rico, we have mentioned all that lies on this night. It is a Puerto Rico side that has not progressed from its initial stage of World Cup qualifying since the 1994 cycle. This would be monumental for a number of reasons, let alone them reaching the final stage of the 3rd round. Remember, the top 2 teams that place in each group automatically progress to the 3rd and final round. It will be 12 teams divided up into 3 groups of 4. The group winners, the 6 of them, or the 3 of them, I should say, progress as you get another look at that coming together between Joseph and company. And this was such an excellent chance from Olex Anderson. Just deleted Cardona, and if it isn't for Cutler making himself big here, the scoreline is 1-1. Just an excellent stop with the outside of that left arm. And now man down in the area, and the referee points to the spot. Stephen Pierre winning a spot kick. And St. Vincent and the Grenadines a chance to add a late plot twist in this first half. Well, no one just races to this. There's no urgency whatsoever, and Cutler's forced to come off his line. The tackle comes late, And it sets up St. Vincent and the Grenadines from 12 yards. It will be Olex Anderson who stares down Sebastian Cutler from 12 yards. A man who scored a brace on Wednesday and has already scored 4 times in this competition. And they actually will cede the spot kick to Kyle Edwards now. So it is Edwards who scored on Wednesday against Anguilla, against Cutler. It's saved by Cutler! A nation rejoices in collective jubilation. Well, Edwards goes one way, and Cutler guesses the exact right way. A pair of palms to it with authority, and Puerto Rico still in front. Kyle Edwards denied from the spot. And what significance will that hold? Pierre in swinger. Cutler has issues controlling it and is fouled by Edwards. Well, lost in all of the shuffle of this chaos here, as you see this in-swinging ball. It's definitely an unintentional foul against Edwards. El Salvador has just scored. So great news moments ago after the penalty stop. But El Salvador is now level. So that goal scored by Brian Heel in the 32nd minute. And as a result, if everything holds in place, El Salvador would progress and Puerto Rico would be left on the outside looking in. The collective network of twists and turns continue on this final day of round 2 action in Concacaf 2026 World Cup qualifying. And Sebastian Cutler still slow to get to his feet after being upended by Kyle Edwards on that corner kick. Seems content to continue. And the thumbs up confirms that. Ready to get back underway. The final 5 minutes of this first half, Beckon. And as things stand, number 1 in the pink kit is the hero. Sebastian Cutler denying Kyle Edwards from 12 yards to maintain the Puerto Rico advantage. But now they must hope for another Suriname goal in order to make the victory mean something more tangible rather than pride. Franklin. St. Vincent and the Grenadines responding so well after going behind. They weathered that initial storm. In the last 10 minutes or so, they have been the more dangerous of the two sides. Ball towards Pierre. He does latch onto this. Laying it off for Anderson. Still loose. Down in the area again is Pierre, and this time our official waves it away with any concern. Franklin. And only as far as Courtney Franklin. An early set or late set first half set piece for Vincent Heat. Can they add a further twist to the narrative before halftime? Nigel Charles and Kanaisha Joseph in the immediate vicinity. Dinked in towards Anderson at the back stick. Anderson. Curling it towards the back stick. Headed right into Cutler's gloves. He has passed every test with flying colors this far. Beyond the penalty save, he's hardly put a foot wrong, and can't fault him much for the penalty given that neither of his defenders reacted to the oncoming Pierre in time. Rios. Loose from Idrak. Edwards. Tucked inside. This is Spring. Sprays it well beyond the radius of Oleg Sanderson. Well, he has unsurprisingly been the danger man. There will be questions as to why he did not wind up taking that effort from the spot. Had the ball in his hands and gave it up at the last minute. It is important to note, Cornelius Stewart is usually the designated kick taker for Ezra Hendricks inside. Stewart not in the squad this evening. And as a result, maybe some uncertainty as to who will step up and take those spot kicks. Final minute of the initial 45 beckons. Still 1-0 to Puerto Rico. Leandro Antonetti with his 11th minute opener making the difference. And Oleg Sanderson may draw some ire from our official for this challenge. A shove directly into the back of Darren Rios. Well, no further action from Randy Encarnacion, much to the chagrin of the Puerto Rican faithful. Get another look here. It is a two-handed shove. Perhaps some frustration in it. May be fortunate to get off without a booking. Lads have been booked for less in the past. It is 3 minutes of added time that separate us from intermission. Puerto Rico open the half dominant. Since the goal, though, St. Vincent and the Grenadines gradually growing into it. There is a Vincent Heat player that is still slow to return to his feet.
Just announced that 3 minutes will be added to the total playing time of the first period.
Well, just a slightly reckless tackle that sends the Vincent Heat lad to the pitch. It is Kanaisha Joseph, the 24-year-old who is still nursing This injury plays for Leu FC in the SGVFF First Division, the top flight of Vincentian football. Has been a key part of this St. Vincent and the Grenadines side for the last 4 years. Presumably, we will go a bit beyond these 3 minutes of added time. For those curious, still 1-1 between El Salvador and Suriname. As things stand with the results on hand, Puerto Rico would fall a point shy of the top two. Well, there is Cutler. A strong first half, although issues clearing here. Anderson does control this. And Rios, who's already on a yellow, may have to watch himself. Anderson insisting that should be a second. Just a free kick. Well, the argument's clear. He tugged my kit. Either way, definitely an intriguing set-piece position for Vinci Heat. Franklin stands over it. Took it too early for our referee's liking. And this time the whistle sounds against St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So the free kick comes to nothing. Well, all that Randy Encarnacion's discretion. We are well beyond the added 3 minutes. And there is the halftime whistle. A 1-0 advantage for Puerto Rico after 45 minutes of play. Leandro Antonetti's 11th minute opener is currently what makes the difference here in Puerto Rico. It is Puerto Rico 1, St. Vincent and the Grenadines 0. Sebastian Cutler, an integral penalty stop to maintain this advantage before the break. We'll step aside briefly when we return, a look back at the opening 45 of action. Welcome you back to Puerto Rico as you get a look at the first half highlights of this crucial World Cup qualifying fixture. That was the opener from Leandro Antonetti in the 11th minute, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines found themselves behind. Just slick 1-2 between Antonetti and Diaz, and it is a true striker's finish from the youngster, the 22-year-old, who put Puerto Rico in front and at the time had them in prime position to qualify for the next round of World Cup qualifying. There was some signs of life, though, from St. Vincent and the Grenadines as that first half wore on. This was the best chance following the goal. Garwin Davis does not cope with that well by any means, but then St. Vincent and the Grenadines ratcheted up the pressure. Olex Anderson deleting defenders, and surely you thought he would have equalized, but Sebastian Cutler with a heroic save. Then another one came a matter of moments later. Stephen Pierre tripped up. It sends Kyle Edwards to the spot, who is denied at full extension by Cutler. The moment of the first half for the goalkeeper, who kept Puerto Rico in front and kept their qualifying hopes afloat in the late stages of the opening 45 minutes. There were a few more opportunities for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, but as things stand, that man, Cutler, the hero of that first half. There were questions over Anderson deferring the penalty to Kyle Edwards at the last second. No Cornelius Stewart, so they don't have a designated spot kick taker, and they pay the price right then and there. Those are your look at the first half highlights here from Puerto Rico. It was definitely a first half to remember and a lively opening 45. That is, you're still watching your coverage of the Concacaf World Cup qualifiers, the road to 2026. Here is your look at the halftime statistics. A 4-3 shots advantage for Puerto Rico. Possession all but even despite the early dominance from El Huracan Azul. An excellent response from St. Vincent and the Grenadines after conceding the opener, and it has made for a very competitive fixture as a result. 2 shots on target apiece as well. That is all here for the halftime stats. We'll step aside when we return. A look ahead at the second half. We welcome you back to Mayaguez on the island of Puerto Rico, the final match day of World Cup qualifying in the second round of the Concacaf Qualifiers on the road to 2026. Puerto Rico holds a 1-0 advantage over visiting St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The goal scored by the 22-year-old Leandro Antonetti in the 11th minute. But as things stand, their efforts to progress to the third round would fall a touch short. El Salvador is level with Suriname at halftime. Puerto Rico needs to win, and they need Suriname to defeat El Salvador to progress to the final stage of World Cup qualifying for the first time in the national team's history. This is a very, very exciting 45 minutes on the docket. Puerto Rico needs to see this out. As time wears on, if the scoreline remains 1-0, you wonder when Charlie Trout will begin to start to lock up shop. But also, as well, they need to worry about results elsewhere. It is classic final match day magic, as either Puerto Rico or El Salvador will finish the night with the second qualifying spot. We welcome you back in, and we are back underway from Mayaguez. Puerto Rico trying to keep its World Cup qualifying hopes alive. A victory and an El Salvador defeat would send them to the third round, and they would stake their claim as one of the final 12 teams remaining in the 2026 World Cup qualifiers. We touched on the pathway over the course of that first half, but it would be 3 groups of 4, the 3 group winners progressing to join the United States, Mexico, and Canada, the 3 host nations of the 2026 World Cup, and then the top 2 second-place finishers would compete in the Interconfederation playoffs. Diaz lays this off, space to cross that is closed down immediately. We are guaranteed at a minimum 6 CONCACAF teams qualifying for the 48-team World Cup in 2026. That is already a record. We could get as high as 8, depending on how the Interconfederation playoffs pan out in the wintertime. Issues building out from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and they do so well enough in the end. And Edwards looking for Pierre. It is snatched back. Diaz. No changes at intermission for either side. You get your look at the 11s on your screen. Only one man walking the yellow card tightrope at the minute. It is Darren Rios, the 29-year-old who enjoyed a lively first half. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, no yellow cards to worry about just yet. Here's Edwards. Tries from afar, it falls, and it's in! A leveler for Vincent Heat, and it's none other than Alex Anderson once again. A goal machine in World Cup qualifying, striking again for Vincent Heat, and it's 1-1. A stunned silence has taken over this venue in Mayaguez. As things stand, Puerto Rico's qualifying hopes would be dashed. Alex Anderson spoiling the party. Well, it's just a long-range effort that deflects so kindly for Anderson, and what an acrobatic finish this is. Scorpion kick-esque into the top right corner. A top left banger from Anderson. A 24th international goal to his name. He has now scored in all 4 World Cup qualifying matches this cycle. Edwards dinking it over the top. What a stop from Cutler. Anderson nearly had back-to-back braces to his name. Alex Anderson, the 29-year-old who plays for North Carolina FC in the USL Championship, with his 5th goal of this World Cup qualifying cycle. St. Vincent may not progress, but it won't be anything to do with his efforts in this campaign. Edwards, another long ranger. And it did take a deflection out of play for a corner. Well, what a stunning restart this is. Olex Anderson in the 48th minute, just 3 minutes after intermission, bringing St. Vincent and the Grenadines level. And what that would do if this result holds is take any pressure off El Salvador to avoid defeat. Pierre with in-swing. Headed along by Marshall. Falls. Not a bad effort, but one that sails well over the top left. Well, if you have blinked or you have returned to our match late, Olex Anderson has played spoiler here in Puerto Rico. A very acrobatic 48th minute strike into the top left corner to bring Vinci Heat level. A side that is playing for pride this evening, but doing so rather admirably. Joseph, and that did run out of play. Suriname and El Salvador is back underway. As you see, Paris shrugged off it, and ultimately Joseph was unable to keep it in play. Well, if you are Puerto Rico and Charlie Trout, it may force you to go deeper into your bag of tricks, because your lone goal scorer tonight in Antonetti is off injured, came off around the 22nd minute mark. And they have flashed very little goal threat since scoring the opener. They need to turn the tide and do so quickly. Chipped in. It's handled confidently. Well, there is a collective hush over what once was a raucous crowd here in Estadio Centroamericano de Mayagüez. It is a 12,000 seat venue, one that has a decent turnout on the near side. It was loud and spirited in the first half, especially after the opener and following Cutler's penalty stop. You could hear a pin drop at the moment. Rios. And this is the danger man in Diaz. Escorted wide to Cervena. Rivera back for Cervena, clattering it off his own teammate. This is a more positive response from El Huracán Azul, and they win a set piece in a very dangerous spot. You see Cervena bypasses his defender, and Joseph, the forearm across his head, does the trick. This is definitely a place to have a hit. It is Cervena and Beto Idrak in the immediate vicinity. This would likely favor the left foot of Cervenia. Cervenia to take, and it is right into the wall. Dink back into the area towards Diaz and claimed confidently by Davis. Experienced his moments of nerve in the first half. Not much he could do about the opener, but you saw him grow in comfort as the opening 45 minutes wore on. And no issues fielding that. Well, Puerto Rico's fate is not just in their own hands. They'll have to hope that Suriname gets aggressive with its substitutions. We mentioned them rotating their side, having already qualified for the third and final round of World Cup qualifying. They've already brought on Denzel Jubitana as a first-half injury replacement. As this is knocked over the top, a chance for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and one that is snuffed out. Zinho Solomon down to the deck rather easily. But also on the bench for Suriname, Leofilio Vleiter and Geraldo Kirk, two players who played large minutes for the Surrey boys. I'll be hoping that Stanley Menzel gets aggressive. Speaking of getting aggressive, here's Puerto Rico. Cervenia is through! Cervenia puts Puerto Rico back in front. But the flag may be raised, and that it is. A go-ahead goal neutralized by the fourth official. Cervenia just footsteps off. Well, he knew it. The second the ball hit the back of the net. The fourth official in Ken Pennyfeather's flag shot up. Edwards. I'm telling you what, with the way this opening hour has gone, the last 30 minutes should be appointment television. Puerto Rico opening the scoring. Leandro Antonetti in the 11th minute. Just 3 minutes after the restart, an acrobatic finish from Olex Anderson, bringing Vinci heat level. Puerto Rico must win to have any chance of progressing to the third and final round of the 2026 World Cup qualifiers in Concacaf. Get another look, and Cervenia, yes, he's a few footsteps offside. It is the right decision from Ken Pennyfeather, and credit to him for seeing this. Definitely a full foot off. Anderson in line to be the heartbreaker this evening. When you look at things for Puerto Rico, we mentioned 5 winless entering the night. Have not won since November 16th of 2024. That was the penultimate match of last year's Nations League. A chance to break here. Cervenia was definitely offside, and this time did not even bother latching onto it. It's a Puerto Rico side as well that does not have a vast history or a successful history against St. Vincent and the Grenadines. This is the third ever meeting between the two nations. The first two coming across a 2-leg tie in 1998 World Cup qualifiers. It was a 9-1 victory on aggregate for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. They won 2-1 in Puerto Rico before throttling El Huracán Azul by a 7-0 scoreline later on in the month of May 1996. But the tables have turned a fair bit. Puerto Rico bringing in so much young talent from the American college ranks, and many players who have made their way to high levels of American football and beyond. Meanwhile, for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, it is not quite the days. They ranked 73rd in 2007. They've dropped over almost 100 spots since, at 172nd in the FIFA World Rankings. And despite a recent uptick under Ezra Hendrickson, this is not the golden age of Vincey Heat football, despite boasting some very talented, forward-thinking players. It's a squad that back in the 90s reached the Gold Cup in 1996 and finished bottom of Group A after qualifying as the 1995 Caribbean Cup runners-up. Came within 2 points, though, of an automatic Gold Cup berth this year, as Joseph is sent flying by Idrak. We are beyond the hour mark. Tensions now beginning to flare. Here in Puerto Rico, it was Joseph who actually probably instigated this. He's the one that got off scot-free. Taken short. Here's Marshall. Arcing towards the back stick. First time cross in. It's awkwardly dealt with and mercifully floats beyond the near post. Cutler was rooted in no man's land. Just a corner for Vincey Heat. Curled in by Pierre. Rather underwhelming. For Puerto Rico, we have mentioned the uptick. This is a side that ranked as low as 202nd in the FIFA World Rankings in 2004. Now up to 157th, and we've mentioned we're knocking on the door of their first ever Gold Cup appearance in the 2023 cycle. And we're 1-2-0 defeat at the hands of Martinique away from qualifying. But given the scoreline here and in El Salvador, it feels like a very, very large mountain to climb to reach the final stage of World Cup qualifying. Still 1-1 in San Salvador. But a lot needs to go right for Puerto Rico to find themselves in prime position again. Just undercutting Tristan Marshall here. He was one of the additions St. Vincent and the Grenadines made. 5 changes from the 6-0 thrashing of Anguilla. Marshall, usually a starter at right back, came off the bench, though, for just the second time in his international career on Wednesday night. Someone who's been with Vincey Heat since debuting as a 15-year-old. This is a squad that, like Puerto Rico, likes to give its youngsters chances in the senior ranks. For St. Vincent and the Grenadines, their youngest ever player debuted at 15 years of age, just a touch younger than Marshall was back in 2019. Issues building out here Anderson looking through. Charged away, and this is Diaz. Cervena. Well, if you are just joining us, we welcome you into Mayaguez. It is the 9th largest town on the island of Puerto Rico, at the Estadio Centroamericano de Mayaguez. It is the final match day of the second round of Concacaf World Cup 2026 qualifiers. 1-1 scoreline. Puerto Rico opening it in the 11th minute, pegged back by Olex Anderson's acrobatic finish in the 48th. As things stand, their quest to qualify for the third round will come up just short. They need to win, and they need El Salvador to suffer defeat. It is 1-1 across the board here right now. It's an inviting ball. Diaz. Out wide, Cervena running in behind. Does catch up to it. No space for a potential cross. I think it's everyone in white. And Rivera overzealous with his challenge. Well, an uncharacteristically quiet night for Puerto Rico's all-time leading goal scorer. He's only managed 1 assist throughout this World Cup qualifying campaign. It's only his second start across the 4 matches. Did score twice in 6 Nations League appearances in the 24-25 slate, though. Someone who's bounced around at the club level. Has played in the Spanish 4th tier, in USL League One with Union Omaha, in Dominican Republic, and now at Miami FC. As Sebastian Cutler, the Villanova University goalkeeper, is slow to get up once more. Perhaps some cramping is taking effect on this humid night in Mayaguez. Charlie Trout still instructing his side, urging them to claim the 3 points. Someone who has his squad on the precipice of what would be a monumental accomplishment. Still plenty of work left to be done here and elsewhere. Well, what a night Cutler's had. The penalty save to deny Edwards. Not much you can do about the Anderson chance. And now our first wave of changes, a double alteration from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It is Garrett Ledgerwood and Chad Haynes entering. Meanwhile, Stephen Pierre will vacate, one of the livelier presences going forward for Vincy Heat. Here's Olex Anderson will remain out there as St. Vincent and the Grenadines look to end their qualifying slate on a high note. We inch towards the final 20 minutes.
Atención, por favor. Your attention, please. Sustituciones en el equipo de St. Vincent.
Change being ready now for Puerto Rico. Rodolfo Zulia entering the action. First change of the night for El Huracan Azul, and it is the FC Naples defender who enters for Juan O'Neill. Perhaps a formation change will occur because O'Neill's more of a center mid and Zulia is definitely a center back.
Player number 12, Chad Haynes, enters the pitch.
Haynes replacing Azinho Solomon up front. That is a like-for-like swap. So 2 big playmakers for St. Vincent and the Grenadines vacate just shy of 70 minutes. And Pierre and Solomon, 2 youngsters in Ledgerwood and Haynes enter. Haynes, 23 years old. He's a freshman at Seward Community College in Kansas this past fall. Meanwhile, Ledgert Wood plays for Avenues United, 25 years of age, in the Vincentian top flight. Cervenia hooking this in towards Rivera, nodded along, no one there to greet it. Calderon, arcing ball, a dangerous one. It falls. Cervenia ran into trouble. Rodolfo Zulia, the native of Carolina in Puerto Rico, playing for FC Naples. Has bounced between the Puerto Rican top flight and the lower leagues of American soccer. Still looking to establish a foothold in the 11 for FC Naples, though. It appears he's been deployed in midfield as things stand. Here is his first touch. Puerto Rico continuing its quest for a potential winner. This is fielded well. Potential chance for Puerto Rico. It's laid off. An excellent stop by Davis. The follow-up tonight as well. A double save from Garwin Davis to keep St. Vincent and the Grenadines level. Corner taken quickly. Rios hooking it in. Dangerous. Falls for Anderson. And now space on the break for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Well beyond the reach of Oleg Sanderson, though. Well, a double denial here. What a chance this was for Puerto Rico. Diaz laying it off. An excellent flick back from Rivera. And then the follow-up effort also denied. For a moment, it looked like surely they would take the lead, excuse me. But a bevy of Puerto Rican players turned away at the source, one of them being Darren Rios. And here is Rios again. One of the elder statesmen on the pitch right now for El Huracan Azul. Did not start a single player above the age of 30 tonight. And that is a whistle that enrages Nico Cardona. Dale Spring is still grappling with that ailment. Still a 1-1 scoreline, just shy of 70 minutes in the El Salvador-Suriname match. As you get another look at this challenge, I'll tell you what, it does appear Echeverria actually wins this back cleanly. Maybe he gets a semblance of Spring's boots, but not much more than that. Escorted wide again. Cervenia giving chase. Has been a revelation since entering the fray for Puerto Rico. You begin to see the frustration mounting now for El Huracan Azul. This is a scintillating through ball. Through on goal now. Still a chance for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and it is lost. Now numbers perhaps for Puerto Rico. Diaz. Not the pass he was looking for. Looking for Anderson again. Ledgert Wood giving chase. Low cross in. Falls now for Puerto Rico. And this may be a yellow card. Surely it has to be. A cynical tackle from Spring, and he should see his name in the book. That he does. First Vincentian player to see the yellow tonight. Echeverria trying to build out. Simple grab of the shirt on Cervena. He knows exactly what he's doing. And he takes his penalty without any argument. DL Spring, the 24-year-old defensive midfielder, playing for North Leeward Predators in the SGVFF Premier Division. It's where St. Vincent and the Grenadines draws the bulk of its talent. A lot of domestic products in that league who have impressed on the national stage. Paris darts past his defender. Heavy touch, taking it right to Davis. We approach the final 15 minutes. It is still all to play for Puerto Rico, and it has become an open affair. Anderson thrives in those scenarios. Spring.
Damas y caballeros, la asistencia a este partido es de 1,100 fanáticos. La Federación Puertorriqueña de Fútbol
Space for another cross. Ledgerwood delivering it in just before he can reach Anderson, and another corner for Vinci Heat. It is Ledgerwood who stands over this.
Attention, please. Total attendance for tonight's match is 1,001.
Within swing, collected with aplomb by Cutler.
It's good for your presence in this FIFA 26 World Cup.
Puerto Rico has 15 minutes to find a winner and keep its rapidly dwindling World Cup qualifying hopes alive. This is Gerald Diaz, one of the top creative playmakers for El Huracán Azul. Rios. Space to cross this in. It's a dangerous ball. Flicked along and tapped in! Puerto Rico back in front! And it's Steven Echeverria! The qualifying hopes have new life. Bedlam in Mayaguez, 2-1. An excellent cross. It's just ushered along by Zulia, and Echeverria latches on to the end of it and dispatches with ferocity. Beyond the reach of Charles, and one of the biggest goals he'll score in his entire international career. And look what it means to the substitutes. Echeverria, the Slate Hill, New York native, who opted to represent Puerto Rico in the early stages of his professional career, has put Puerto Rico on track to hold up their end of the bargain. Colorado Springs Switchbacks products. Steven Echeverria has Puerto Rico in front, and now a bevy of changes coming for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Micah Joseph, the first to enter, scored a goal against Anguilla. He replaces Kyle Edwards in a rather like-for-like swap in that attacking midfield role.
Micah Joseph enters the pitch. Player number 17, Edwards exits the pitch.
Well, Puerto Rico still has to see this out and hope for help elsewhere as Cutler collects. Echeverria, what a journey he has undergone. A New York Red Bulls Academy product. who ultimately wound up signing with Red Bulls too after finishing his college career at Wake Forest. Only spent 1 year though with the organization and then underwent 3 years without a club at the professional level. He finally found a new home in Colorado Springs Switchbacks before the 2021 season and established himself as a mainstay there the last 4 years. He has also been in and out of the Puerto Rico squad, just his 8th international cap, and he scores his first international goal at quite the time for El Huracán Azul. Well, it was just the one change for now. Joseph for Edwards. And there will be keen sets of eyes in the crowd on the El Salvador-Suriname match. It is still 1-1. They need a Suriname winner to progress to the 3rd round of World Cup qualifiers. That match has just under 15 minutes to play in the initial 90. So when this match ends, they will likely be waiting on the result elsewhere, depending on how stoppage time pans out. Over the top now, Rivera. We are into the final 10 minutes for Mayaguez. Just beyond the reach of Cervenia, that. Well, if you are just joining us, moments ago, Steven Echeverria, the 29-year-old Colorado Springs Switchbacks product, putting Puerto Rico back in front. They need to win, and they need Suriname to win. They are in line to hold up their end of things. But once again, needs Suriname to finish the job. One more change for Puerto Rico. It is Adrian Biaggi who will enter, and he replaces Darren Rios in a defense-minded swap. Biaggi, a defensive midfielder, recently transferred to the University of Illinois Chicago from Dayton. The 20-year-old tasked with helping Puerto Rico see this out.
Player number 21. Darren Rios exits the pitch on minute 82.
This over the top, Diaz. Well, Biaggi, Daytona Beach, Florida native. He was born and raised in the United States, opting to represent Puerto Rico. Just his 8th international cap. He replaces Darren Rios, one of the more well-tenured players in this El Huracán Azul side. A late tackle this, and one that may draw the referee's attention. That is Biaggi's first involvement. Well, Biaggi spent the first 2 years of his college career at Dayton. As we mentioned, transferring to UIC, he's hoping to get more regular minutes after making just 10 appearances for Dayton. You see the possession stats on your screen. Puerto Rico taking over the lion's share of the ball the last 20 minutes as they pushed for that go-ahead tally. They've now achieved it, and you'd figure they may sit back and cede some of the ball in the closing stages. They must pick their spots carefully the other direction and not overextend themselves. The win, the primary priority. Ledgerwood. Cross deflected out for a corner. You wonder if Charlie Trout has eyes on the other match right now. So far, he's paced up and down the touchline, clearly focused on this fixture. After all, they can't worry about the other match unless they win. What resilience his bunch has showed in the second half. At times, it looked like they might be overrun. Snatched the game back by the scruff of the neck, and Steven Echeverria has them in line to secure the much-coveted 3 points. Cutler issues fielding this, and it's headed in! Another plot twist, but the flag may be raised. And that it is. A foul on a Puerto Rican player negates the equalizer. For a moment, it looked like their hopes were dashed. Cutler, a rare error. And it was headed in. They called offside on Olex Anderson, who had the final tap. So no issues with the earlier foul. Anderson denied a brace for touching it beyond the last defender. And he is well and truly offside at the time that ball is headed on. The correct call, it appears, from Ken Pennyfeather, who has now neutralized a goal either way due to offside. There are 2 players down, one for Vinci Heat, one for El Huracan Azul. So to clarify, Anderson offside. The flick on header reaching him, and he had the final touch on it. But he was beyond the last defender at the time the ball was headed. Here's another look. It's a towering header from Johnson after a rare miscue from Cutler. And Anderson is the last man at the back stick. The question is where he was when it was headed, although it did appear he had a footstep or two on his defender, which would render him off. Ezra Hendrickson barking out some last-second instructions. Clearly has an intent of getting at least a result here this evening, and his side has put forth a very game effort. It's very easy when you're effectively playing for nothing when it comes to qualifying to roll over and maybe rotate your side. With the exception of Stewart being out of the 11, he still played a very strong side, and his players have been up for it all evening. It has made for a sensational product on the pitch both ways. And he readies more changes, this time a double swap. Nazir McBurnett and Milton Joseph entering. 2 attack-minded players. So McBurnett replaces Kanaja Joseph in what is clearly an attack-minded change. And another one, as well as Andrew Johnson exiting for Milton Joseph. Caution to the win time now from Ezra Hendrickson. Milton Joseph, a listed forward who plays for Simcoe County Rovers in the Canadian semi-pro ranks, specifically in League One Ontario. Nazir McBurnett, a 32-year-old who plays for Hope International FC in Vincentian football. Final 2 minutes of the 90, and it all still hangs in the balance.
Su atención, por favor. Your attention, please. El cuarto oficial acaba de anunciar que se añade.
We welcome you back here in Mayaguez, Puerto Rico. We apologize for the technical difficulties here in the late stages of this crucial contest on the final day of the second round of Concacaf World Cup Qualifiers. It is a 2-1 advantage for Puerto Rico over St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The would-be winner scored by Steven Echeverria in the 77th minute. Puerto Rico must win, and they must get some help from Suriname, who currently is level with El Salvador in the final 5 minutes of the 90. When this ends, there will be clear focus on the result in San Salvador. Here is Ricardo Rivera to Diaz. Puerto Rico at this point just trying to see this out. They still need someone on the Suriname side of things to find a dramatic late winner. Otherwise, they would fall a point short of the top two, and their campaign would end in the second round. They still need to see this out, though. Early cross in, charged away. And an overzealous tackle from the substitute. Excuse me. And the substitute, Micah Joseph. Puerto Rico trying to snap a 5-match winless run as well. As you see, Joseph, the forearm across Cerveña's face is what does the trick. And will be in no rush to take this free kick. In the Suriname match, it was Justin Longwyck who opened the scoring in the 19th minute. Brian Hill equalizing in the 32nd, and we've been at a stalemate there since. Suriname has 68% of the ball, but unable to turn that into a winner away from home. The match being played, of course, in San Salvador, the capital city of El Salvador. At this point, it may be destination corner flag whenever Puerto Rico gets the ball. Trying to force it wide to Ledgerwood. Charged forward again, and Rivera catches up to it. Can Puerto Rico add the final nail in this? Dinked over the top. It's not a bad ball. It is one that's read rather comfortably. And Anderson is fouled. St. Vincent and the Grenadines playing with an urgency that would suggest they still have qualifying hopes. And you have to admire Ezra Hendrickson for having his side ready to play to maximum capacity. Had a potential equalizer from Anderson ruled out due to offside about 5 minutes ago. It was a major heart and throat moment for Puerto Rico since they've scored the go-ahead tally. Joseph. Charles. Read well by Paris. Ball comes in, and Cutler fields without trouble. Final 2 minutes of the added 6. This match will finish moments before the El Salvador-Suriname match, which is in the 90th minute, still 1-1. It appears that a valiant effort from Puerto Rico to potentially win this match may be for naught in the end. As the yellow is shown to a St. Vincent and the Grenadines player, it is the fullback Tristan Marshall in the book. What's it coming together between him and the striker Rivera? Marshall incensed by it. Booked for his reaction. Time for one final foray forward for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Can they play spoiler away from home? No, they cannot. The final whistle sounds. Puerto Rico has done its part. A hard-fought 3 points here at home. Steven Echeverria, the hero, in the 77th minute. But now all eyes turn to San Salvador. They still need a Suriname winner in order to progress to the third round of Concacaf World Cup qualifying. As things stand, they are just shy of that top two, but not over just yet. It finishes Puerto Rico 2, St. Vincent and the Grenadines 1. We'll take a quick breather. When we return, a look at the full-time highlights and perhaps the final score from San Salvador, depending on how long that match persists. Stick with us.
Deseamos que tengan un buen regreso a casa. Les recordamos que la invasión al terreno de juego es completamente prohibida y está sujeta a sanciones. Thank you for being with us in this qualifying match to the 2026 FIFA World Cup between the national teams of Puerto Rico and St. Vincent. We wish you a pleasant return to your homes.
Time to look back at the 90 minutes that just transpired here from Mayaguez in Puerto Rico. A 2-1 victory for Puerto Rico over St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Puerto Rico off to a flying start. Leandro Antonetti, the 22-year-old star up front, opening the scoring in the 11th minute to power Puerto Rico in front. A side that knew they had to win and get help elsewhere to progress. And Sebastian Cutler did his best to hold up his end of the equation. A penalty stop against Kyle Edwards in the late stages of the first half, and Puerto Rico went into halftime with a 1-0 lead. But then Oleg Sanderson responded shortly after the break in the 48th minute. This acrobatic finish into the top left corner to bring St. Vincent and the Grenadines level and bring this crowd to a dulled hush. But then Puerto Rico continued to push on, a number of chances, and finally Steven Echeverria providing the winner in the 77th minute to power El Huracán Azul to a 2-1 victory. It finished 2-1 here in Puerto Rico, but for those waiting on the El Salvador result, we regret to inform Puerto Rican fans that it finished 1-1. So Puerto Rico's qualifying campaign ends here in the second round. The full-time stats, a 9-7 shots advantage to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, but Puerto Rico more clinical. For our terrific crew from Mayaguez, I'm Sam Goldfarb saying so long from Puerto Rico. It finishes Puerto Rico 2, St. Vincent and the Grenadines 1. Have a great rest of your night, everyone.